Alright. Now this is you and Manny. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through at about 5% speed a couple times through, and let's just watch it with our bare naked eye and kind of see what we're seeing in comparison and difference. The reason I picked Manny is his swing's nice and compact and real simple, and on this is a really pure swing. There's not a whole lot of complications going through it. Now, to kind of my instructions for you, I want you to watch this thing tonight, and I want you to watch it 2 or 3 times with me talking. After the first 2 or 3 times, I want you to turn the sound off and just watch these swings with you beside Manny. No lines and everything, and I want you to pick out some of the things that you were doing and so on, and then we'll talk about some of the stuff here. Alright, first thing, let's look at our stance. Okay, not bad. Remember, we've got knees inside of our toes. You can see that on both sides. Got our hands behind the back shoulder. Not a bad setup. Okay. Now, let's start to progress a little bit. We have negative movement. Alright, now negative movement, pretty good. You're going straight back, so is he. That's not a bad place to be. Your hands are still by the back shoulder. Now, this is where I was talking about. Look at our hands here and how from frame to frame, how our hands really started to separate from our body. Alright, when they separate, let's go from negative movement to toe touch. See how when toe touch, his hands almost stand still. Alright, maybe even go forward a little bit. Okay, see how your hands continue just kind of almost drag way back there, and your body and your front shoulder really go out. See how our hands are way behind us now, way behind that back shoulder. And now you look at this front arm. Now looking at this front arm, we're almost barred out. Okay, see how we're almost barred out? See how he's still got a good bit of bend in his. Okay, so that's where we want to get to, keeping the hands closer to our back shoulder. Okay, then we get to heel plant. That heel comes down. Now he's still got his chest of the ball. Now see how his hands are still kind of connected with that back shoulder coming forward? Now you can't go forward because your hands are so far behind, you're already dragging. From here we get to connection with that back side. Now again, hands dragging behind us. Hands are dragging behind us, and we've got our hand. He's got his hands on his back shoulder, starting to firm up on that front side. Then we get to bat lag, and now you start to catch up. Notice how we're catching up. How his elbow's still bent on his front side, still straight on the back side. Now look at his heel here. All right. See how he lifted his heel? He didn't spin his heel, and that's kind of what we're talking about, getting rotation on the back side and kind of sitting and squatting. Then we get to contact. Now here's the area that I want to see. Now look at where his hands are, how far his hands are, just over his front foot. And when I look at his hands, where do you think his next movement with his hands are going to be? That direction, through the baseball. Where are your hands going? Up and out. Is there anything up and out that we want to hit? No, there's nothing up there. So what we got to think about really doing, and first it started with our hands dragging so far, they had no choice but to get around the ball and come out. What we want to think about is keeping our hands closer to our chest as they're coming to the baseball, staying inside the baseball, and that'll allow us to get to the position that Manny's on the right side of the screen of staying inside the baseball and through the baseball. Now look at the next frame. When I get to the next frame, see how he's just now rolling over, and see how far you rolled over, and see how you could still see space between his arms right there. Okay, can you see any space between your arms? Because you've already rolled over, and that's because we're getting around the baseball. Okay, the more we stay inside the baseball, one, it's going to allow us to stay inside it and drive the ball. Okay, now I want you to look here at his back heel. Yours is pretty good at this point, firm front side. Okay, last thing that I want to show you is, let's look at aggressive posture and a negative posture. I think your posture is going to be pretty good. Let's get back to heel plant. Okay, from my front eye, your front eye rather, to your belt buckle is a little aggressive. That's good, and you can see Manny's on the right side of the screen, still aggressive. Okay, and then we get to contact. That should straighten up, and I want to be head. You see how his straightened up? He's head, shoulder, hip, and knee all in a straight line. Then I get head, hip, and knee. See how it kind of breaks down? You're sitting behind the ball, and that's where I'm talking about us not getting off that back side and driving that back hip. In an ideal world, that line would be straight up and straight out. And it's really not moving your head a whole lot. It's what? Throwing that back hip. Got it? Does that make sense? Any questions? Very good, gentlemen. Very